create a table. So the table name is dev info, which is having the 3 rows in the table, right? 1 2 3. So the schema is id is an integer, name is a varchar I have defined. So now what I'm trying to do now, I'm trying to import the data. So which data? This the table dev info to the Hdfs. So this is, we know that you have to write to import the data. So we have to use a Sqoop import statement, right? So first import, I'm writing Sqoop import, then write a connection string, connect JDBC, and I'm trying to connect to the MySQL, where MySQL is available in a local host, and the database name is test. Table name dev info, and I want to import, so same dev info, and I want to use one mapper. I'm writing -m1. Okay, so suppose if you want to create a specific directory, then write target dir. Okay, press enter. Okay, so now we retrieved the 3 records, right? That is, these are written to the Hadoop fs-ls in a table, in a directory dev info. I'm having a file part-m-000. Okay, so now there are the 3 rows are there. The 3 rows are imported to the Hdfs directory dev info, right? So after that, so I'm going to add new rows to the MySQL table. So here in the MySQL, I'm getting the new data. So I'm writing here some 4. I'm inserting 2 new rows. Press enter. Okay, so now if you see here, you can see select start from dev info. So total now we have the 3 rows. So in the previous import, I have imported up to the 3 rows. So when I'm trying to import the dev info tables data, now in this case I have to import only the row 4 and row 5, but instead of the 1 to 5, because I already did the importing of 1 to 3 in the previous import. So I have to import only the newly added data to the Hdfs. So now we are going to learn how to import this newly added data to the Hdfs. Okay, so it's the first thing is it's a Sqoop import. So we have to write everything as usual, how to perform the Sqoop import. So you have to write a Sqoop import command, then specify the connection string and the database name after the table name, right? So number of mappers you have to specify. So apart from that, so what I want to do here is I want to make the incremental append. So I have to write a parameter that is incremental append. Okay, so how you want to perform the incremental append? So by going through a column name. So what is a column here? Suppose id is a column. So what I'm specing that. So the in the my previous import, the way I have imported where id equal to 3, correct? So now I have to import the new rows, that is last column import is id equal to 3. So the new import starts from id equal to 4 onwards, correct? So this is going to be the incremental append. So here you have to remember, when we are going to perform the incremental append, so we have to specify what we have to specify. We have to specify the last imported value, right? So last imported row id, some value we have to know. So that is last imported value is id equal to 3. So this is we have to remember all the time, right? But it's a difficult, so I'll tell you later then how to avoid this remembering issue, right? But as of now you have to remember. So what, so till now how many rows you have imported? So till now I have imported where id equal to 3, so I have to import the rows which are after the id equal to 3, that's 4 5. I have to import the data. So this is generally we call it as a incremental append. So what we do now, so we use a one parameter in the Sqoop import statement. So we write a parameter like, so incremental append. Okay, so you have to write a parameter incremental append. So how you want to perform the incremental append? So by going through a column, so you can write check a column. Okay, so what is the column name? id. So what is the last value which we have imported? So you have to write last value. So what is the last value? That is id equal to 3. So right, so here check a column id where we have imported till id equal to 3. So that's the last value. So this is we have to remember, right? So the last import was done where id equal to 3. So the same thing here as specified, check a column id. So take the column id into the consideration and go through the last value is 3, and then start import after the new rows where last value is 3. So this is generally how Sqoop is going to perform. So this is what we call it as a incremental append. So when we are writing the Sqoop import statement, so in the first import we imported the 3 rows, that is where id equal to 3. So to import the newly added data, so in the Sqoop import statement we have to write a parameter incremental which specifies append mode, so that I'm going to add new rows to the Hdfs, right? So when you are performing the incremental import, check the column which is id is the column name in my table, right, where the last value which I imported is 3. So write that as last value is 3. So when you write the Sqoop statement here, so here you can specify the what is the check column. So incremental append. Okay, so check column. So which column you have to check? id. So what is the last value we have imported? Then write last value, that is 3. Press enter. Okay, see now, so the import is completed here. You can see the lower bound value. So the last import was done on the where id equal 3. So the new value, that is upper bound, is 5. So it wrote all the rows between the 3 to 5, right? So you can see here in the it's going to be the incremental append. The check column is id, then last value is 5. So you have to remember this last value into somewhere, right? So to import the newly data, so we have to remember always the last value. Okay, so now you can see here in Hdfs. So if you write Hadoop FSF and ls in a dev info, you can see a new part file, right? So the new part file is with the name 1. So you can see here, if you write Hadoop FSFN cat, part file 1 will have the rows 4 comma 5, right? So part file 0 will have 1 to 3 rows. Okay, so this is how to import the newly added data to the SDFS. So again, if you got the new rows to the SDFS, so I'm inserting one more row here. So that is new row 6. Okay, so inserted 6, 7, 8. So now you can see here, so what is the last imported rows? That is where id equal to 5. So now I have to import the upper bound where id is up to 8. I have to import the data. So the same thing in a Sqoop import statement. So it's same thing, Sqoop regular import statement. At the end, specify it as incremental append and write check column. So how to perform which column you have to take into the consideration to perform the incremental append. So just write check column, which is id. So the last value, so what is the last value? 5. Press enter, then it imports the data which comes after the 5, which are after the 5. So what you have to do here, you have to remember the always last imported value. So to perform the Sqoop incremental import, so you have to remember the last incremental import, last imported value. Okay, so the last value is 8. Now you can see here we will get one more part file with the name part file 02. Now we can see the data which will have 6, 7, 8. Okay, so this is how we are going to perform the incremental import to the SDFS. So this is the way importing the newly added data from the MySQL table to the SDFS. When you are performing the Sqoop incremental import, so you should have the order in a incremental order, right? You should make sure that your MySQL table columns are having in a incremental order. That is, suppose if you are having IDs 1, then the next should be 2, 3 something, or you can use 8 or 10, it works. Suppose if you write 5 here, so we cannot perform the Sqoop incremental import, it won't take. So when you are performing the incremental import, so the column ID should be in an incremental order. Suppose if you don't have this incremental order in a MySQL table, then you should have a one more extra column, that is a time. So either there should be time should be specified for MySQL table, or you should have an ID in a sequential order. So this is a limitation for the Sqoop incremental import, right? So you should make sure that your table will have the order in a sequential way. That means always the last value should be the max value, right? So you cannot write 5 after 5, then don't write 4. So your next row should be above 5, then only Sqoop incremental import works. Otherwise, suppose it's difficult for you to organize, having such kind of data, then you should have a one more extra column to the MySQL table, that is a time. If you have the time, then you can it works. So you can write 4, 8, 10, then if you write 5 here, also we can able to import the 5, because Sqoop will always takes the last value and next highest upper bound value. So if it is 10, then the next value should be greater than the 10, so but not less than the 10. So it won't work with the Sqoop incremental import. So it is always difficult for us to remember the last imported value, correct? So to avoid the import remembering this last imported value, so we have to make this Sqoop import as a Sqoop job. So when we create a Sqoop job, right, when we create a Sqoop job to perform the incremental import, so remember this statement as it is, right? When we are going to create a Sqoop job to perform the incremental import, so Sqoop always remembers last import value. So we no need to specify, we don't remember the last import value. So what is the issue here? When we are performing the incremental import append, so I have to remember the last imported value all the time. So it is becoming very difficult for me to remember the last imported value. So what I'm doing now, this Sqoop import, I'm creating it as a Sqoop job. So when I created this import as a Sqoop job, then Sqoop remembers this last imported value. That is, in a some temporary file, Sqoop writes the last imported value. So whenever you are running the job, Sqoop takes the value from the its cache memory or in that file, and it performs the next rows from the last imported value. Okay, so I'll repeat. So it is very difficult for us to remember the last imported value. So to avoid this, we are creating this Sqoop incremental import as a Sqoop job. When we create this incremental import as a Sqoop job, then Sqoop remembers the last value. So how it remembers the last value? It writes the last value into a file. So whenever you're running a job, Sqoop goes to that file and it writes the last value. Then it performs the new data imported to the Hdfs. So this is how we use it. This is how, and we have to use the Sqoop jobs. And one advantage of the Sqoop job is this one. So we can avoid the remembering last imported value, and we can able to schedule the job. We can automate and schedule the job to run on a specific interval. So this is advantage with the Sqoop job. As of now, we'll see this Sqoop incremental import, and we create a Sqoop job so that it performs only the newly added data importing to the Hdfs. So here I'm taking some Sqoop import statement. So this is the Sqoop import which I'm having. So I want to use this statement as a Sqoop job. So to create a Sqoop job, what we have tried? We have tried a command Sqoop space job, and then I want to create a Sqoop job. So use the command Sqoop job create. Then give the job name. So I'm giving a new job name. So daily import. Alright. So I'm giving the job name as a daily import is the job name. So what this job has to do, it has to perform the incremental import. So write the command here. So here just remove this Sqoop, they import space, then write the import statement here. Right, start with the import statement. So import, then as usual write the connection string and the table name -m1. So then this Sqoop import is going to be a Sqoop job. So where is this Sqoop statement? Just write Sqoop, then write job. Right, so use create to create a job name and give the name as daily import is the Sqoop job name. Okay, so what I want to do, I want to perform the incremental import. So write hyphen then import statement, then connection string. So this job is going to be perform the incremental append mode, and the check column is ID. So then write the last value, some value. You can write 0, anything, right? So this will be routed into memory. So because already I imported 5 rows, so here I'm writing the last value. So what is the last value which I have imported? Up to 8. So last value is 8. Okay, so let us create a job as a daily import. So I'm going to the Sqoop terminal. Okay, so I'm going to create a Sqoop job. So daily import already exists. So just a second, Sqoop job, delete. Okay, so I'm going to create a new job. Job name is daily import. Right, job is created now. So what this job will do? So it will import the new rows from the MySQL table to the SDS table. So here I'm going to insert some more rows here. I'm writing 9. Then I'm inserting 10 new data to the MySQL table. Okay, so now we got new rows, that is 9, 10, 11 to the MySQL table. So to perform this import to the HDFS, so I need to run the Sqoop job, right? So just write Sqoop space job. So I want to execute the job. So write exec to execute the job. So which job I want to execute? That is daily import, right? Sqoop space job hyphen hyphen execute exec and write the job name. Okay, so I have created a job. Now this job imports the data to the HDFS. This job imports only the new data from the MySQL table to the HDFS. So now we no need to write the Sqoop import statement every day. Just you have to, whenever you get the new data to the MySQL table, then you have to run this job. Okay, so now see here in a Hadoop fs-ls dev info. Now you can see a path file, right? So that's 3. So then write 3 will get the rows up to 11. Okay, 9, 10, 11. Now in the MySQL table, see here, I have insert, I'm writing new rows 12, then 13. Entered. So now I have inserted new rows to the MySQL table. So to import this new added data to the HDFS, I need to run the job. So you don't need to go with the enter Sqoop statement. Simple run this job, Sqoop job, execute and run the job name, daily import. Now this job imports the newly added data to the HDFS. Okay, so now retrieve 2 records. Now you can see here cat, it will be in a 4th part file. So now we can see the rows 14 comma 15. Okay, sorry, 12 comma 13, right? So as you will get the new data, so when you run this job, it writes the new rows to the HDFS. So you got new rows again here into the MySQL, that is 14, 15, okay. So we got 14, 15, 16. Then to import this 14, 15, 16, then you need to run the job. So always Sqoop remembers the last value into the memory and it imports the data from the last imported value to the new data. So now you need to run the job. Okay, so we got using 400 partition 5, right? So now we can see it 4 in the next part file 5, we can see the new data. Okay, 14, 15, 16, right? So this is how we are going to import the newly added data to the HDFS. Right? So in a Hadoop stack, we use Uzi to schedule this job. You can use a different scheduling tools too, right? So you can use Talda or you can use Crantab. So there are so many scheduling tools are available in the market. So there are some open source tools are there. So you can use those tools to schedule this job to run on a specific interval. Or you can use Hadoop Apache Uzi in a Hadoop cluster to schedule these Sqoop jobs. So we use a Sqoop job command, right? So to create the Sqoop jobs. So when we create a Sqoop job, so that if you schedule the job on specific interval, so this job runs and it will write the data to the STFS. So we use a Sqoop jobs to right, to create the job where how we are going to import or how to perform the exporting the data. So those are the things we create it as a Sqoop job, so that we are going to automate this import. So to create a Sqoop job, we use the parameter Sqoop space job hyphen create. So it will create a Sqoop job. Suppose if you want to list the jobs which you have already created, then you can use Sqoop job space hyphen list. So it will list the jobs which are already created. Suppose if you want to delete a job, then you can use the parameter delete. If you want to run a job, you can use a parameter hyphen exec to execute a job. So to see the list of the jobs which are created, then you can use the command Sqoop space job hyphen list. So it will list the jobs, right? So these are the jobs which have created, right? So if you want to delete a job, then use Sqoop job hyphen delete and the job name. So here I'm having my the imp, right? So to delete a job, right? The job is deleted. Okay. So if you want to create a job, so you can write Sqoop space job, then create. Okay. Suppose what I want to do, I want to list the tables, right? Then right here, I want to run a Sqoop command, list tables to list the tables every day from right using a Sqoop. So this write list tables, then write the connection string connect jd bc colon mysql colon / localhost, the database name is test. So this is a job, so you have to write the job name here. So I'm using the job name list tab. So I'm going to create a job. Cube job hyphen delete list tab is there. Okay, so you can write Sqoop job, the create, and then write the job name, Then the sqoop command, which command you want to make it as a job. So I want to list the tables, so just write list tables, then write the connection string, press enter, then a job is going to be created. The job name is list tab. So now to list the tables from the MySQL, so no need to write the entire sqoop list tables command. So instead run this sqoop job. So sqoop job hyphen exec, then list tab. Now it will list the tables from the MySQL database test. So whenever you want to list the tables, just run this job. Okay, so you need to run the job. Now to list the jobs which are already there, so sqoop job hyphen list. Okay, so to perform the sqoop export, so first we have to create a MySQL table. So I'm going to create a table, then write the table name. Dev2 info is the table name. So I define id as an integer here, then name is var char of 20. Okay, I have created a table. The table name is dev info. Now we can see here, select start from dev2 info. Okay, it's empty table. So what I want to do is, now I want to export the data from where, from the hdfs directory. So here I'm having the data in a file hadoop fsfn cat. So in a file dev info I'm having a part file, right? Part hyphen m hyphen 5 zeros, press enter. Then I have to export the data. So which data? So this three data 1 2 3. So this is, I want to write to the table dev to info. So I'm trying to export the data from the hdfs location dev info part file to the MySQL table dev to info. So to perform this we have to run a sqoop export. So just run the command sqoop export. Okay, so then as usual you have to write the connection string connect, then you have to write the jdbc colon mysql colon slash slash localhost. Okay, so in MySQL table, so which table you are trying to import the data, write the table name, sorry, write the database name. So the database name is test. Okay, so after that, what is the table name, in which table you are trying to export the data. So write the table, then the table name dev to info. This is where I'm going to write the data dev to info, right? So then from where in hdfs you are trying to export the data, from where? So write this as for the parameter export hyphen dar. So this is a location in hdfs, that's from where in hdfs you are exporting the data. So from the directory user cloud era. So I'm having a directory dev info. So in the directory dev info I'm having a part file part hyphen m hyphen 5 zeros. Okay, so just write this one. And when you are trying to export the data from this dev info, see now here each field is separated by the comma, right? So here the fields are separated by the comma as a delimiter, because Sqoop writes by default as a CSV file. So here specify the field separator, so how each field is separated. So then write a parameter fields terminated by. So write input fields terminated by. So how input fields are terminated by? Using a comma. Okay, so see here what I did. I wrote a Sqoop export statement, right? So this is the data and this is the table name. Okay, so now you can see here select the star from dev to info, right? So we got we have export the data, so that is 123 AB, right? So from this one will be written to dev info, right? So this is how to perform the exporting the data, Sqoop export. Okay, so what we did here to perform the Sqoop export, so I wrote a Sqoop export statement like this. Okay, so I have used the parameter. One is input fields terminated by to specify the delimiter for the input data. Okay, so export dir to specify from where in Hdfs you are trying to export the data, right? And I use the command Sqoop export. Okay, so this is how to export the data from the Hdfs to Hive. Sorry, from Hdfs to MySQL. With the export location. So see here, now again to export the new data. So right now, so which file now I want to write another part file. So now we can write part file 1, press enter. Okay, exported to two records. Now you can see here select star from dev to info, right? So we got the rows up to 5. Okay, so this is exporting the data back to the Hdfs, right? So if you want to perform the Hive import, then we have to write a Sqoop import command, and at the end write the parameter Hive import. So when we write Hive import, then Sqoop imports the table schema to the Hive table. Then Sqoop imports the table data first to a temporary location Hdfs. From the temporary location in Hdfs to it writes the data to the Hive table. So with the Hive import, so we can able to import the table data as well as the table schema. So when the table schema is converting to the Hive, first Sqoop converts the MySQL table schema to the Java data type. From the Java data type, it will be converted into the Hive data type. Suppose in MySQL we have the varchar2 in Hive we use a string, so that the conversion of from varchar to Hive is done by the Sqoop itself. So internally Sqoop uses Java to identify as well as to perform the converting the data type into the Hive data types, and then it writes the data to the Hive. So that how we have the data in a MySQL, the same kind of the table schema and the table data will be available in Hive. So how we are going to query the data in a MySQL, the same kind of the querying we can also do in a Hive. So only the environment is different, but how we are going to work with the MySQL, the same way we are going to work in a HDFS when you have the Hadoop cluster, when you have the data in a Hive table. Okay, see here. What I want to do is now I want to import the data from this MySQL table to the Hive table. So what I did now in another terminal, I have started the Hive. So right now I'm going to work the two terminals. So one is for the MySQL and other one for the Hive. Okay. So now see here. First in Hive, I'm if you have the table, I'm going to delete the table. So right, I'm writing drop table. So data talk. Right. So there is no table with the name data talk in Hive. Okay, so now I'm trying to create a table along with the table schema, and I want to write the data into the table. So in MySQL, and this is Hive. Now, so I'm using a Sqoop terminal. So here I'm writing Sqoop space, then just write import. So as well write the connection string, connect JDBC colon MySQL colon slash slash localhost, and the database name is test, and the table name is TED talk. Okay, so number of mappers I want is 1, and I want to perform Hive import. Just write Hive import, press enter. Then what Sqoop will do now? Sqoop will create a Teletalk directory in a temporary place and writes the data. Then Sqoop creates a table schema in a Hive. Then it writes the data from the temp location HDFS to the Hive table Teletalk. So we can directly write the data to the Hive. Okay, so now see here, loading the data to the Hive table. Right, now you can see here, select star from data talk. Okay, so the data we have imported from MySQL to Hive. You can see the table schema DAC data talk. Right, so here ID is an integer, so here to ID is an integer. Your name is a varchar of 20. Here this varchar of 20 is converted as a string. So like this, they are going to import the data from the MySQL to Hive. Okay, so what we did here for the Sqoop regular